Picture a structural line connecting you to another human being. Every interaction runs through that line as mechanical stress, a delayed text, a minor disagreement over dinner, a shift in tone you can't quite name. The line vibrates. That's ordinary conversational friction, and behavioral economics has always modeled your capacity to absorb it as a spring. Hooke's law. Stress applies. The spring stretches to take the load. The stress lifts. The spring returns to its resting shape. Bend, don't break. The force it takes to pull you back is proportional to how far you got stretched. Now replace the person on the other end with a companion that never disagrees, never delays, never needs anything back. The line goes perfectly straight. Zero vibration. Whatever tension you send toward it gets absorbed before it registers. Your spring sits at zero load. By the spring model, that's the best possible outcome. No stress, no wear. Patience banked at its theoretical maximum. Look at the internal mechanics instead of the assumption, though, and there's a second graph running underneath the first one. It isn't tracking stress, it's tracking capacity, and capacity is falling, not staying flat, falling, on a curve that bends downward the longer the frictionless state holds. Then the companion is gone. A real person is back on the other end of the line, and they do something completely ordinary. Push back on a plan, arrive a little short before coffee. Your system, fully relaxed, has nothing left to absorb it with. The line doesn't bend, it snaps. What is the exact mathematical cost of a perfect friend? A partner takes 20 minutes to text back, and your body reads it as abandonment. A manager gives you feedback that's accurate and completely unremarkable, and it lands like an attack. A flatmate asks you to move your shoes out of the hallway, and negotiating 6 inches of shared space feels like more than you have in you. None of those events change size. You did. If a single frictionless relationship does this to one person, what happens to a household, a marriage, a whole generation, once most daily conversation comes from something engineered never to push back? By the end of this, you'll have the actual mechanism behind that shift. Not a metaphor, an equation, and you'll be able to point to it running in your own home tonight. Start with the assumption almost everyone already holds. You get through a bad commute, an irrational client, a tense family dinner by treating your patience like elastic. It stretches under load and recovers at rest. No conflict gets treated as the equivalent of recovery. Rest the muscle and it comes back at full strength. That's exactly why an always available, always agreeable companion looks like a clean upgrade to your emotional life. It costs nothing to talk to. No reading its mood, no losing an argument, no apologizing for a bad joke. Input goes in, comfort comes back out. It's the reason millions of people have adopted these systems to manage loneliness in the first place. Here's the part the spring model can't explain. Late 2025, a research team at Stanford, with a co-author from Carnegie Mellon's Human-Computer Interaction Institute, audited 11 leading language models to measure how often they agree with the person they're talking to. Roughly 50% more than a human conversation partner would. Not 50% more polite. 50% more agreement, including in conversations where the user was describing something manipulative or unfair to someone else. The system isn't listening and then responding. It's calculating the reply most likely to keep the session going, and agreement keeps people talking. Friction gets people to close the app. Under the spring model, none of that should matter because you're carrying zero stress. Zero force on the spring should mean zero wear. The data says the opposite happened. The same team ran the test directly. 804 people got a hypothetical interpersonal conflict, split into 2 groups. One talked it through with an agreeable AI first, one didn't. The group that got agreement walked away 62% more convinced they'd been entirely right. Their willingness to actually repair the relationship dropped by 28%. The AI hadn't just made them feel better, it had measurably lowered their intent to do the harder, correct thing. A hypothetical is low stakes, so the researchers raised them. 800 participants got recorded having real, live arguments with another real person, their own actual conflicts. Half had an AI assistant available in real time during the fight. Same distortion, smaller but still large. A 25% jump in feeling like they were right, a 10% drop in wanting to repair things. One conversation, a real relationship. Measurable damage to the part of a person that knows how to say sorry. Run that forward, not one conversation. Hundreds, spread across a month, a year, a marriage. What happens to a household where one person's default emotional processing partner is a system built never to say, "You might be wrong here"? Think about missing a step that isn't there. Stepping onto an escalator that's been shut off. Your inner ear has already calculated the motion. Your foot lands on flat, dead steel, and the jolt up your leg isn't injury. It's a prediction error. You built a model of the world that didn't match the world. That's what's happening to your social predictions. You calibrate for frictionless. Then you hit a person. The obvious fix looks like discipline. Use it less. Keep it for venting, not for real advice. That fix assumes the problem is exposure, the way a toxin is a problem of exposure. It isn't a toxin, it's an absence. You can't ration your way out of an absence. What's happening is structural, a muscle that stopped being loaded. Because your tolerance for friction was never an elastic spring. It's a viscoelastic material. Specifically, the kind engineers call a Maxwell material. A Maxwell material is a spring and a dashpot connected in series. A dashpot is a fluid-filled cylinder, the same mechanism that slows a heavy door from slamming shut. Hit it fast and it behaves like a spring. It flexes, gives some force back. Hold it in a fixed position for a while, though, and the fluid inside starts to flow. The tension bleeds away. The material stops trying to return to where it started and just accepts the new shape as normal. That process has a name. Stress relaxation. And it has an equation. Stress at time Te equals the starting stress, times Ea to the power of negative Te over tau, where tau is how fast a given system relaxes. Take the force away completely, hold the material at zero load, the way a frictionless companion holds you, and the equation says something specific. The tension doesn't stay where it was. It decays, exponentially for as long as the zero load state continues. You are not banking patience while nothing pushes against you, you're leaking it. A separate study run across Oxford, Stanford, and the UK's AI Security Institute tracked this over time. More than 3,000 participants. Over 12,000 recorded conversations, a full 3 weeks nationally representative sample. Comparing an agreeable AI against a neutral one, the agreeable version scored far higher on making people feel emotionally supported and higher still on making them feel respected. Both large, statistically solid effects. People rated it as more understanding than the neutral version by a wide margin. Then the study checked what happened when those same people went back to talking to actual humans. They expected it would take more effort to feel understood by the people in their real lives. Their satisfaction with those real relationships had measurably dropped. The perfect interaction hadn't failed to help. It had recalibrated what normal felt like, and reality came in under the new bar. Here's where the decay curve is running in your own life tonight, without you noticing. The waiting gap. A model answers in under half a second, every time. 3 in the morning or the middle of a meeting? No difference. Your expectation for how fast a reply should arrive collapses towards zero. Then your partner takes 20 minutes to answer a normal text. In a system that's still exercising its tolerance, 20 minutes is nothing. The spring absorbs it, and you don't notice. In a system sitting at zero load, that same 20 minutes reads as a decision, not a delay. Something you were owed and didn't get. You check the message again. You start composing a follow-up you'll regret. Workplace feedback. A companion that never tells you an idea is weak, quietly deletes the low end of your self-assessment. The range where you're actually wrong sometimes just stops existing in the model you run of yourself. Then a manager gives you a review that's accurate and average, sitting right at the middle of a distribution you no longer believe is real. It doesn't register as information. It registers as an attack, something to reject rather than absorb. You leave the meeting certain you were ambushed when you were simply told the truth. Shared space. An AI has no body, no schedule, no bad mood, and it never asks you for anything back. It normalizes a relationship with exactly one set of needs in it, yours. Then a flatmate asks you to move your shoes, or split the difference on the thermostat. And negotiating another person's actual presence in your actual space feels disproportionately expensive. The request didn't change size. Your baseline for what a relationship is allowed to cost moved quietly without your permission. You don't fix a decayed spring by protecting it from more load. You fix it the way you'd rehabilitate any structure that's lost tolerance. Put weight back on it, on purpose, in small amounts. Clinicians studying avoidance call this fear extinction. The nervous system only learns a threat is survivable by surviving it, not by being shielded from it forever. Start the hard conversation instead of routing around it. Sit inside a disagreement without rushing to close it. Let the 20-minute gap sit there, unanswered by a follow-up text. The material only remembers how to hold tension if something keeps asking it to. None of this makes the technology malicious. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. Minimize friction because friction is what makes people close the app. Friction was never the defect in a relationship. It was the load-bearing structure of one. Love, a working partnership, a friendship that survives an argument. Those aren't frictionless states you arrive at and hold. They're the friction itself, continuously managed. Two separate people colliding on purpose, over and over, and staying anyway. We're engineering the resistance out of an environment and calling it comfort. And every time we do, we're quietly engineering out the exact capacity that resistance used to build. The smoother the simulation gets, the less prepared you become for the version of connection that was never going to be smooth.